I met with my second opinion doctor, and at that point he said, well, it looks to me like the treatment's not working as it should. So I have a clinical trial and I want you to go on it. And I was extremely reluctant at that point. You know, I'm still coming to terms of, you know, being diagnosed with cancer, let alone now I'm going to subject my body to a clinical trial.
Yeah.
You know, I was terrified.
Sure.
I was terrified. And, but, you know, I thought about it and I thought, well, what have I got to lose? Let's go for it. So at my second opinion meeting, I said, yes, let's do it. Can you please be my doctor too?
Right.
And he said, yes, he would, which is actually not an easy thing to do here in Canada, because usually you get assigned a doctor and that's your doctor.
Right.
To get another doctor was really lucky. I was really lucky because he's a very, very good myeloma doctor. One of the top ones in Canada.
Wow.
So I feel very fortunate that I got into his care.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it was pretty incredible. So at that point, he said, okay, take Christmas off, take New Year's off, have a few weeks with your family, and we'll start up at the end of January. So that's what we did. We started at the end of January. We started the selinexor, the carfilzomib, and the dexamethasone. It's part of the STOMP trial.
Okay.
You may have heard of the STOMP trial.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is selinexor, but you can use it in combination with carfilzomib or Revlimid. There might be one other option too. Maybe POM, possibly.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I think they're just trying all different combinations.
Right.
Yeah. So this is definitely not a common treatment.
No, it definitely isn't.
No.
Very interesting. Do you have to travel very far when you go to see these doctors?
I do, and that was part of the interesting story that I had to tell you.
Oh.
I made a major breakthrough for myself and many patients down the road.
Oh, great.
You want me to go into that right now? Yeah, okay. So I traveled 2 hours one way for treatment. So that's 4 hours of driving every week. I am involved with the International Myeloma, the IMF. I run a support group, Families. It's for patients with young children who have multiple myeloma. So my name is kind of out there a little bit. People know who I am. Mm-hmm. So Karyopharm heard of my story and they wanted to do a roundtable on me, which I thought was super interesting. Yeah. So I agreed to it. And at the meeting, they asked me if, what are some challenges that I have to being in this trial? And I told them the drive time, consumes my life, that's a lot. I would literally wake up, get the kids off to school and daycare, jump in my car, drive 2 hours, stay there for 2 hours, drive home for 2 hours, pick up my kids from school and get on with the day, supper, all of that crazy stuff. So yeah, huge challenge for me, huge. But at that point they said, oh, we're very sorry, but that's just how facilities work. That's how clinical trials work. You have to be at a certain facility. And I thought, okay, well, all right, well, I guess I'm going up there forever then. Yeah. But just randomly out of the blue, my nurse calls me about a month ago and she says, I just got the strangest email. She said, I got an email from Karyopharm, and it was an internal email that they sent out to the entire company. They all were just so moved by your story and everything you told them. And they agreed to let you go to your local hospital to get your trial drug.
No way.
Well, yeah, they did. They agreed to let me, which is apparently, it's never like, drug companies have never done this before.
Wow.
I mean, so I'm like the first person that they're actually allowing to treat closer to home. So I was just so excited.
That's
but
amazing.
Then it was amazing. And then I got a phone call and they said, oh, well, the hospital is doing a lot. They're really pushing back on this one.
Ugh.
And I thought, oh, great. They said no. Everybody said yes, but the hospital.
Oh,
they didn't feel comfortable administering the drugs because they had never administered them before. So that was kind of a blow, but my nurse said no. She said, I'm going to work on this. You just don't worry. I'm going to work on this. And I got a call about 2 hours ago and she said, well, we won. She met with everybody. She met with the head of nursing, the head of, with the oncologists at the hospital. She met with everybody. They all got together and they figured it out. And now I get to go back to my local hospital.
Okay. So I know that you didn't really relapse. It's not like you, the drugs completely stopped working or anything like that. And then it came back after a time of no treatment. So it wasn't really like a relapse. And you kind of talked a little bit about, but remind me again what the doctor's mindset was to continue to do something different.
Because it's my IgA that we follow. So because my IgA it was going down and then it slowly started to climb up a little bit. That's when the treatment decision was made that I should be on something stronger. To be honest, I've never really gotten a full answer about that. They did say that perhaps it was refractory, but nobody really knew for sure. We just knew that we just needed to move on to something different. If that makes sense.
Also, you had written down that you had your stem cells harvested after a bunch of, the treatment was done. And I know you had sought the advice of several people about, what to do with that. Is it time to do a stem cell transplant now? Is it time to just collect cells and do it later? What is your thinking on that?
Oh, that's a loaded question because that is one that I've been going back and forth on that one for months now. So it's my doctor who thinks that he doesn't. So basically, the transplant, he sees it as a treatment. He doesn't see it as a destination. If that makes sense to you.
Sure. Yes.
With all the treatments out there right now, he says, we don't have to go to transplant yet because there's other things that we can do that are less invasive. And also he was a little bit worried that I would go through the transplant and not get a long enough remission. So he didn't want to put me through all that for the possibility that I might only get remission for a year or 2 years. Mm-hmm. So I think maybe he was looking at me as kind of, I'm definitely not the typical patient for him at all. I think he's taking a bit of a different approach with me. So yeah, I still kind of worry about it a little bit. I still wonder, should I do the transplant? I'm almost in complete remission. A lot of people say that's the best time to do it because then it deepens the response, but there's really no proof of it. Nobody really knows.
Right.
But I'm okay with not doing it. I didn't want to do it anyways, so nobody wants to do that.
No.
So I think it's very confusing for myeloma patients all around. Absolutely. It's been completely confusing, and I'm constantly questioning, am I making the right choice? Is my doctor making the right choice? It's definitely, I wish it was more clear cut, because it definitely isn't, and it puts a lot of stress on the patient. A lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree, because that's what they want you to do. And, you know, we've been looking at a second one for me possibly. But I would rather just do this treatment until it's not working anymore. And then see what happens next. Because this could work for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. There's somebody on this trial that I'm on. I don't know if they're taking Kyprolis, but they're taking selinexor. They've been on it for 4 years now.
Yeah, I'll take it.
That's right. Exactly. And that's kind of how I feel too. You know, as much as I don't want to be in continuous treatment, I think, well, okay, it's either that or I go down a stem cell transplant, and there's just so many unknowns with stem cell transplants. At least I know what my trial is. I know it. I know what to expect. I know the side effects.
Right.
You know, with transplant, it's like a whole, you know, other thing. So
yeah, and you know, I did mine 23 years ago, and they didn't have the same mindset as far as making sure, well, they only had one basic treatment to get you into your stem cell transplant, and there was no real talk of complete remission or anything back then, and they just did it, and I went for 12, almost 14 years before I had to start treatment again. And so you just, like you said, you just really don't know what the reaction for each individual patient is going to be. And you can try to do what they tell you to do and do all the things, but you just don't know.
You just don't know.
No. So it makes it really hard and difficult to make that decision. That was my only choice back then, but now there's just so much more you can do.
So initially, when I first started on the clinical trial, there was a lot of testing, because you pretty much have to be healthy enough to get into these clinical trials, but then you got to be too sick too. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Right. You know, because usually you have to either relapse or be refractory or something, and that's where they said I was refractory at that point. That's how they got me into the clinical trial. They said refractory. So a lot of testing. I had to get my heart tested. I had to have preliminary CT scans, X-rays. Lots of blood work. I had to meet with the nurse coordinator. So that's how it began. And just the first day, for day one of my cycle one, it was a big show at the hospital. So there was lots of nurses ticking off boxes, making sure everything was, you know, all good. I have my own clinical trial nurse, who is amazing. She is incredible. So that's different, being in a clinical trial, because usually you just have access to a nurse's line. Then you got to leave a message and they get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. Whereas I have access to Judith, who is my nurse, and she will usually get a hold of me within like an hour, unless she's in clinic or something. So I'm very, very fortunate there too. So that's a bit different, clinical trial wise. So yeah, that's kind of how the clinical trial started. Let me think if I can think of anything else clinical trial wise. So yeah, I said they pay for my expenses, so that's nice. So yeah, side effects have been difficult, very, very difficult. And I'm not gonna lie, I still struggle sometimes. It always seems to be on day one of my cycle. Do you ever notice that? Do you ever notice that?
Yeah, for
you
sure.
Do. Yeah, so it's never like day one is usually pretty terrible. And then usually day 8 is a little bit better. Day 15 is, sometimes I won't even have symptoms by day 15. Maybe I'll feel a little bit tired, a little bit nauseous, but nothing like day 1. It seems to be something about that break. I think it's the 4th week off, giving my body that break and then going back into it.
Right.
So how I've managed side effects is a lot of anti-nausea medication, a lot of it. And to be honest, it still doesn't take care of all of it. Do you need me to tell you everything that I take for nausea medication? Because I think a lot.
I think it would be really interesting to know, like, just kind of, the journey that you've gone on with it, and anything that you want to share as far as different medications would be fine, just to help other people kind of have an idea of what's out there.
So I take a lot of ginger. I'm constantly drinking ginger tea and taking ginger pills. I take Amend. Also take Zofran and metoclopramide for my nausea. I'm going to be honest, like, the nausea is pretty terrible. It almost has made me cave a few times. Yeah. It's almost made me give up. It's been really hard to deal with the nausea.
Has it caused you to lose weight?
No, because I've never vomited. Okay. I always just nauseous. And yes, I do have decreased appetite for a couple days, 2-3 days usually afterwards. I always make up for it in the times that I'm feeling really good. So I've managed to stay stable in my weight, thankfully. That's one really big thing that I actually do too, that I forgot to mention, is nutrition. Nutrition is huge in my life, huge. I do microgreens and wheatgrass shots, and I do some supplements. So I think that has helped me stay stable weight as well. I'm packing myself full of as much nutrition as I can, and the best kind of it.
Good for you.
So, that's awesome. Yeah, thank you. It took a little bit of time to adjust, but now that I do it a lot and I eat all the greens, my body craves it now, and I don't mind it anymore. It makes me feel better. Yeah.
Yeah, I find that too, where at the beginning of the treatment, although I take dexamethasone on the first 2 days of treatment, so that does help me a little bit as far as appetite, but I don't know if it's the selinexor or what, but I also have loss of appetite, and things taste different to me. And so it's hard to find things that actually taste good. Have you had any of that experience?
No, I haven't.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. You said you can take dexamethasone on 2 days. How do you do that? So I was given, so my dexamethasone was low. They agreed to lower it to 20 milligrams, but he did say that I could divide it if I wanted to. So obviously that's what you do. I wonder if I did that, if it would make things a little bit more tolerable.
Yeah. I do. So on day 1, I do 20 milligrams. Day 2, I do another 20 milligrams.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so the biggest thing is it causes 2 nights of not being able to sleep well, but I do feel like I tolerate it better, and I don't get those like mood swingy type side effects like I used to get so much if I took it all in one day. Yeah, I definitely think there's an advantage to breaking it up if you wanted to try that.
Yeah, I think I'll give that a go. See what happens.
Yeah, for sure.
So I really wish they could figure out how to give the selinexor without the nausea, because I mean, it's doing wonders for me, and I'm pretty sure it's doing wonders for you too.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm almost in complete remission now. I have no sign of it on any of my blood work anymore. yeah, everything's completely normal. I believe my plasmacytoma in my sacrum is completely healed.
Great.
I don't feel pain. I haven't taken a narcotic in 2 weeks now. Yeah, I took a huge turn. The last month, I barely feel any pain anymore. Just a little bit of tightness, you know, maybe, you know, heart, you know, feels funny when I walk, you know.
Yeah.
I'm missing a piece of my bone there. So that's going to take a little while to come back. But yeah, I don't know if it's selinexor or if it's the Kyprolis or the combination. I don't know. But whatever it is, it's working.
Yeah. Yeah. And my combination is selinexor and Velcade. And yeah, I don't know what it is. I think it must be the combination, but boy, it just makes me feel like a different person. I'm just feeling so much better than I was.
That's so great.
I know, it's so great.
Honestly, Beth, like your story has like really inspired me so much, I have to say. Just because when I see you, I think, okay, she did it, you know, she's doing fine. Like it just makes me feel so much better when I see other people who are thriving and, you know, doing well, you know, even 23 years later, you know, that really gives me hope that, you know, I'm not going to die like right now.
Yes. Yeah. Well, good. I'm so glad. I hope I can give people that inspiration.